Hello, hello, everybody. I I was just prepping for this and I was just laughing to myself because prepping for me is now I did like some yoga nidra and then I danced. I'm like, wow, when I was in a more masculine paradigm, preparation looked very different. So, anyway, just laughing about that. Welcome to the Pleasure and Precision Salon. We are going to go deep into basically everything you can expect from this mastermind. It is for sure my most intimate of all the spaces that I offer. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what that means, what that looks like. Probably even just like the initial vision I had for it. Like there has been a very clear vision for what this room wants to be for a long time. So we're going to cover all the things, what you get, all that kind of knobs and buttony kind of stuff. So with that, let me share my screen. Okay, we're going to go here. Just got to pull down my little face. There's my boobs and my nails. All right, so welcome to the Pleasure and Precision Mastermind Salon. If you are here, you are considering joining my highest level room. So let's talk about what that means. I had this vision. It was definitely something that was received to me. And it has been, there's like the business strategy of offer suites and ascension models. And then there's these more energetic spiritual understandings. And it has been very clear to me what this offer is and what it wants to be and how it speaks to me. Like the first vision I had for it was basically that of the ancient Egyptian temples. And so in ancient Egypt, at the temple spaces, there were big, bright, open, wide spaces that were big and open. Anybody could come, anybody could worship there. And then once you actually entered the temple, you had to have had some sort of initiation. And as you ventured more and more deeper and deeper into the inner recesses of the temple, you had to have higher and higher initiation levels. And there's like, it's so rich with symbolism, what this looked like, because even as you would venture deeper into the temple, it would get closer in, it would get darker, and it was just for the highest of initiates. And it has always been so clear to me, the energy of this room is that. It's like the inner sanctum of the temple. It's for the highest initiates. And this room is something I will never scale this room. It is like very clear to me, like this wants to be a room that is like the women who are at the highest of the high in initiation level. And I think if you're here, you probably have a sense, like your mind might have a question, but I suspect your body has a deep knowing of that. Like you will feel a yes in your body if you're meant to be in this space. And so we're going to talk about a lot of the, like the knobs and buttons, the different types of business things that we're going to cover. But I feel like it's really important to start from that because I do think this is a room where this isn't going to be a salon where like you're like considering it and then like I'm going to have some like wavy jazz hands thing that's going to get you in. This isn't that. This is like I really only want the people who have like a sense of knowing in their body that they are meant to be one of the people in that inner sanctum. And you already know, right? And so I think I just want to start from that because it's like very important to me. This room wants to be very curated. And that is, yeah, I think that's the baseline that we have to move from. And if that is a yes in your body, I invite you to continue to ride with me and listen to the rest. And if you don't feel a yes around that in your body, I love you very much. And you're probably not a fit for this space. Okay. We're now assuming there was a yes. Let's keep going. So there's certain things that I feel like sound sexy from a marketing perspective, and I do think of as true. Like when I say scale your business to wildest dream status, I'm not saying that there's no issues or problems with scaling your business, right? Like I think at any business level, there's always, it's sometimes like feels good to be like, what problems do you want to choose, right? Because then we don't think that like we reach some state where like everything is perfect. But I look at the level of problems that I solve in my business today, and I look at the things that I spend my time doing, and I could like cry with gratitude that this is the life that I've created, that I have a collective of women that support me. Like it feels like a village, right? A collaborative village where everyone is being pulled forward by this incredible vision and this mission. And to have this global, worldwide soul family of people that are like coming together in my programs, like you could have never like told Catherine 5 years ago when she was like starting her business that this was ever a possible option. And so while I can't promise that wildest dreams mean there's like never any issues, I can promise that when you look at what you create, your problems look so small in comparison, right? Like I think it was the other day we had like an email that went out with like the wrong time, and I'm just like, nobody, like it's fine, right? Obviously, there's different things that you can do to like always be mapping towards operational excellence, but I just wanted to be really clear about like what wildest dreams means to me. And I don't want you to create what wildest dreams means to me. I want you to create what that means to you. Like for me, it's like a wildest dream that I can be done at like 3:30 every day and like hold Theo's hand on the walk home from the bus stop. Like that's so fun that I get to do that. I get to be there. Like I just like signed the form for the field trip. I'm going to go with him to the farm, and like the amount of time and location freedom that I have created. This is the kind of thing that when you get to this level of scale in your business, like I'm taking 2 weeks off in the summer to be with my family in Colorado. I'm taking another 2 weeks in the fall to go to Italy, and my business will continue to run without me. And there are certain things that like I just, yeah, it's taken work to get here. But my goodness, if that is the dream that you hold, it is worth every brick that you lay to get there. Another thing that we focus on this in this space is preparing your business to usher in larger groups of clients in at once. So really thinking about offers, programs, things that can hold like 100 to 1,000 people at a time, and making sure that the offer is scaled, formatted, and set up in a way that like that the client delivery won't drop. I have scaled my business and my client satisfaction numbers have gone up, which is like, it was always quite high. We had very high retention, but like we've had 100% client satisfaction 2 years in a row in my most scaled program. And that is like industry, like mind-blowing breaking kind of stuff. And we're not like breaking our backs to do it. We're being really creative, really innovative, thinking about the client, and just being really sharp and smart about our operations and delivery and the overhead of what it takes to run that. We're talking, and that actually leads into building out business infrastructure. So this is not like a solopreneur thing where it's like you and a VA who's like sending out some payment links. Like we're looking at actually building out systems and processes and things where it's like the business is an entity. I mean, it already is. Your business already has a spirit of its own, and we're actually looking at creating something to hold it, something where that can be housed that is off of you. And I just remember as I started to scale to feel it, it's like there is something beautiful about having a personal brand and having a business that is like really tied to you and your gifts, but there's a moment where there wants to be a separation. And I think this is the thing where it's like you start to really build a business that operates and is separate from you. Of course, you can operate within it. I love being in delivery in a lot of my programs, and I'm high touch with my team when they need support, but it is something that can run without me for chunks of time, which is really yummy. Also, this room is for people who want to increase your annual revenue to multiple 6 to 7 figures in the next 1 to 3 years. All right, what's included? The knobs and buttons. So it's basically like a 26-week program, and then we have a week break for, it's like basically every season we have a week break. So there's like 24 total calls. And those will be mostly with me, but then we'll have occasional guest experts. So one of the things that is very important to me that this space will provide is feminine embodiment practices. This room is called Pleasure and Precision. There's actually an entire course inside the portal on sexual energy and sex magic, and actually being like owning your power within that. And we can talk more about that if you have any questions about it. I've had podcasts and things in the past, but really it's from like there's nervous system. There's a lens there where it actually expands your nervous system capacity, which as you scale, you're going to want to have a higher window of tolerance. And there's also magical things like sex magic, which we could talk about if that's something that interests you. But part of that for me is like, I've thought about this. If we talk about like the inner sanctum and who will come from this space, you start to notice when you like are in certain environments, it's like people, you can feel their lineage, you can feel where they've been, you can feel where they've trained. I was thinking about this. I have a neighbor who's an architect, and we went to this restaurant the other day, and he was like, "Oh, this is a Michael shoe." And I was like, "How do you know?" And he like looked around. He actually had trouble telling me what the exact things were in the restaurant of how he knew it was that architect that had done it. And he was like, I don't know. I just can tell. Right. And it's so funny because I feel like there have been times where I come across people in the coaching space and I'm like, oh, I can like, they're from this part of the coaching world. And I've thought about who I want. Like, it's almost like the people who come into this inner sanctum, like the lineage and the imprint that I want this space to, well, that really honestly, this space wants to be, is women who are deeply in their feminine embodiment, deeply connected to themselves, their emotions, their physical body, all of the things, and also have some of the sharpest business minds in like entrepreneurship. And that is a mountaintop that you don't see a lot of people at. And this is the space where it's like, that is basically like the fingerprint of what this space wants to be, is feminine leaders who are really operating at the top of that space. Another thing we'll do is we'll provide pop-up trainings around topics for scaling. So this is like no holds barred, right? I've been thinking about the types of things. I really think this space is the most personalized for sure and intimate space where like if something comes up and there's like a sequence and my team or my company has an SOP or we figured something out, like we would just give that to you. Like there's just so many things where I realized I was in spaces as I went to scale that were only focused on the front end, and it created a lot of operational debt for my company that honestly, I think we're still digging our way out of. I think we're close to the end of it. But because I was in spaces that only prioritized front end marketing and sales, it created so much for us to sort of like think through and work through on our own. I even joined programs for back end stuff, but I just find that there's like programs that sort of piecemeal things together. And I really want to provide, if there's something that I'm seeing that someone needs, we're going to have pop-up trainings. You're going to have access to my business and the people in my company, my content person, my operations person, the way that like no one else has, right? And this really is, I think of this as like a very co-creational space. And with that comes the highest level of access. So in between calls, we'll have a private group Voxer for like anything that comes up in between calls. If you want to help riffing on, if you have a launch coming up, a campaign, something with an offer structure that you want to change, like any of that kind of stuff, both for co-creation with me, but also like other people in the space that really are just operating at a higher level. Also, this is the space where it's like fuller access. I will look at your materials. If you want to riff and really co-create strategy plans, messaging stuff like sales pages, all of that kind of stuff, it's the most direct and personalized feedback on all of the assets that you create. If that's something that you want help with, right? Like this is like the space where I make myself the most available to you all, because obviously there's a smaller number of people here and it's like a very highly curated room. This is also, you get access to all of my other programs, which like at this point, it's like about $16,000 worth of value, which is pretty juicy. And the other thing that's included in this is we do the most delicious 3-day pleasure and precision immersion experience. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a little bit. But it's going to be May 22nd to the 25th in Austin, Texas. So here's like when I think about the few things that are like the most valuable parts of what this program is, the first thing that came to mind, and I actually changed the word this morning. At first I had it said personalized, intimate mentorship. But as I thought about it, there's something about, it's not an energy of mentorship. To me, I do think like in Words or Wands, there's people there where it's like, it does feel a little bit like there's a gap, right? Of what the mentorship is. this space, this inner sanctum feels like very high level women, shoulder to shoulder, just like powerful co-creation is like the closest I can say. And I wanted to call that out because I literally had the word mentorship and I looked at it and I could feel in my body it wasn't right. And so the closest thing I can say is it's just like, we are equal in power. You are incredible. And there's just something in me where you see there's something that I can sort of start to fill in, which I do think when you start to build out a company, we could even talk about this, like when you have a VA, it's almost like you're extending your energy because you're just giving them tasks to do. But there's something when you go to start a company, it's sort of like there's codes that you can fill in with different team members, but there's also codes that you can fill in with different mentors. And so there might be a felt sense for you that there's something in the co-creation of what your business is wanting to bring through for the collective that you just have this pull towards me. There's like something that wants to come together to unlock and amplify something in your business. The other thing that I think is like very differentiated about this space is its holistic business support. It's all of you, mind, body, spirit, and it's also all facets of your business. So like we're going to cover the front end, more advanced marketing strategies. We're going to cover if there's different things happening for you in delivery, the way you're formatting programs, anything like that, as well as the back end, anything that's happening with systems, operations, workflow, team, all of that kind of stuff. When you get to the multiple six-figure level and beyond, that stuff really does, if you're wanting to build something, you really want to start to look at what things need to exist there to allow you to sort of shoot off. And the other thing is just higher level conversations and problem solving. I have had the hardest time as I've grown in my business, finding rooms with the level of conversation that I want to be having. And like, this is the room, I think I've said on the podcast, like every time we run the immersion experience and we run it, like I cry because I wish I could be a member. There's just nothing out there like this right now. And because I can't join it, I was like, I might as well create it. And so there is no, like I said before, there's no intention to scale this room. My intention with this is like the most highly curated space that I run. It's the inner sanctum, and the level of conversations, the problem solving, and the level of connections in this space is bar none, like chef's kiss. We had talked about this already, but like one of the things that I think is like really wonderful about coming into this space, if you are more new to me, or if you aren't some people come through the accelerator and they go into the words or wands or whatever, but we've had people come in the last round of Pleasure and Precision that had never done anything with me before. And it was so amazing for them to have access to literally all of my programs. And so the moment that you remit payment, it's like, oh, like everything unlocks and you will just get access to the Brand Alchemy Accelerator, to the Words or Wands Mastermind, to everything in the marketplace. So to give you like a brief overview of what I really think, like what each of these represents, there's something that I often say, if you've been close to me for any period of time, you've probably heard me say it, but there's the buyer, the seller, and the marketplace they're trading in. And the Brand Alchemy Accelerator is really focusing on the seller. It's focusing on you and how you're showing up in the world. Words or Wands, yes, it focuses on you. It always has to come from you, but we're really focusing on your unique buyer, the different buyer types you have, the way that they want to be communicated with, all of those types of things. And then the marketplace, when I created this, I was just like, look, I love me some energy work and some thought work, but I also ran business development teams in very large tech companies for a long time. And we didn't talk about any of that. And we still made millions and tens of millions and almost $100 million in one of the companies I helped to run, right? So it's like, I was like, I want something that really dives into the strategy of the marketplace. And like, after I left one of the ad tech companies I was working for, I was doing consulting for like other mobile ad tech companies out in San Francisco. I had like made a name for myself. And so like the marketplace for me, it's really all of that. Like I say it's my rising Capricorns, like, oh, like swan song, right? And so this is like, it's really very deep in on strategy, very deep in on like the external marketplace factors that I just find, especially, I love the coaching space, but I feel like a lot of the coaching space gets so like navel gazing around like, what is it in me and what's my pattern? And it's like, I believe that's 100% a thing. And I also believe very often it's like, and there's been a buyer shift and this is happening in the economy. And to have a more holistic lens of the buyer, the seller, the marketplace, and then having all those together. And listen, if you're here, you have a pretty good sense of all of those things, but it doesn't mean there's not something for you to learn. And then here we're like, okay, this is our base foundation. And then we're going into scaling from a mastery of these more foundational pieces. All right, let's talk about the pleasure and precision immersion experience. It makes my heart so happy. So it's a 3-day it's like part mastermind, part retreat. I almost put spiritual initiation. I'll be honest, I wanted to write an initiation and then I wrote reset. So we're just going to say it's like a spiritual initiation. At the last retreat that we ran, it was incredible. We had gourmet meals. We had a movement or embodiment practice every day, whether that was yoga, we had goddess embodiment flow one day. So we have a focus on really grounding, getting into our bodies, being deeply present, and then we can still do the mind. We can still do the business masterminding. We can still do all of the things. But it's from a much softer place, right? Like from a more feminine led. So it's like the thing that more of my masterminders say about this experience, and honestly, probably this whole mastermind, is like their body has never felt more relaxed and their mind has never felt sharper. And so I think there's been a lot of things where it's like, once we go through this 3-day experience, a lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, how am I going to hold this when I get home? Like, I feel so deeply relaxed. I feel so reset. It's like you feel so dropped in, like you can reach and have awarenesses and connection with different things that have been wanting to speak to you about your business, that maybe when you're sort of out in the busy noise of the day-to-day, you don't really get. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, coming from like other spaces of business masterminds that has more, there's yin energy, right? Yin feminine, and there's yang, right? And so there's some masterminds where it's like big hotel conference room and champagne parties and out and about and like all of those things. And I love that. That's beautiful. Right. But I think when we're in that energy all the time, we actually often can't drop into the contemplative reflection to actually catch the next thing that our business is wanting to work through us. And so my intention with this is that it has, yes, do we have yummy connection and fun and glasses of champagne for sure? But we have intentional, like spiritual experiences. Actually, the last round, I had a cacao and breathwork facilitator come in, and it was like a very beautiful experience that like really opened the space, brought a lot up into people's awareness, and then we got to work through it for the next 3 days. So like that's the vibe of this experience. So those are all the things you can expect for that. You will walk away with like, for sure, we're going to mastermind on everything that's happening in your business, right? It's not just the yummy embodiment practices and experiences. That's a big part of it. But I feel like that sets us up for a higher level of conversation. And I would say an even more strategic level of conversation around really getting your business set up to go to the next level. And then that will be in Austin, Texas, May 22nd to the 25th. And then this is the curriculum you can expect during our time together. So there's certain things that it really is, this feels like more of a co-creational space than anything else. This isn't like the type of thing where it's like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and like everybody has to run through the same thing at the same time. This is really where it's like, these are the topics that we're covering. We're going to work on team and hiring. We're going to work on systems and workflows and operations. We're going to work on more advanced business strategies and setting digital infrastructure up, and sequences that run evergreen and can just have like money coming into your business, like all of those types of things, as well as all of the like the pleasure, the white space, the allowing space for intuition and creativity, all of that type of stuff. And so I would say to expect that. And this is the room where really it feels like this is going to call in a very specific type of person, where there's going to be a flex and a flow, and we're always going to get where we're meant to go. And these are the areas of focus that like checkity check you want to look at, where it's like, okay, yes, like these are the types of things that I want to be working on in the next year or two. And this is the space where I want to sort of step into to help me do that. The investment is $25,000 paid in full, and that investment can be split up between multiple payment methods. So you can just reach out to support@catherinemorrisoncoaching.com if that's something that you want to do, and we would be more than happy to help you with that. Okay, all of that is very juicy all on its own, but there's also bonuses because, come on, early bird gets the worm and all that. So the Sacral Yes bonus that I'm offering for the first 5 people who are applying now through end of day Friday is a private 2-hour predictable profits experience. So this is really like part coaching, part business consulting. It'll be before we meet in May. So this will be something, we'll probably set this up in March, where we're going to take a whole 2 hours, really like I'm going to get into your business, right? And we're going to look at your offers. We're going to look at what's been going on with your audience. We're going to be looking at what's going on with your heart, right? And what's going on with your desire, where you want to take the business. And then what are the things that right now seem like they're bottlenecks between you and just alignment to that flow, and really opening that up in our time together. And what I love about this is this sets us up for, you're going to get this like burst in March. Then you're going to have all of the other programs to be like working through in our time together. And then we're going to come together for our immersion experience in May. And you will feel like, between this and then like having access to all of those programs, like you're going to be in a completely different place in your business by the time we even meet for the immersion experience, which is pretty juicy. And then I'm very excited about this next one too. For everyone applying through Sunday, I'm going to put an entire training together where I'm going to unpack everything about this launch. We're going to talk about, there's so many, like, I feel like I fucking unlocked the Da Vinci Code around choosing a quiz funnel, why I chose a quiz funnel. Like, it's a genius thing that I think any larger business should be doing, because what it opens you up to on the back end is really incredible. We will talk about it on the call. We're going to talk about the segmenting, the funnel, the client journey mapping, everything that we did to be talking to different multiple client types at once, the tech stack, the things that went wrong so that you don't ever have to have any of this go wrong, the sequences, like we're going to get into it. And so if there's anything too that like you can answer, like if you have questions, you can ask me the questions of like, okay, what pieces of this apply right now to my business? And then what pieces could you take away right now and actually apply into your business today in a way that would like really amplify the effectiveness of your marketing? I really think this alone is worth the $25,000, and it's going to be like, y'all, I don't want to give too much away, but this is a good bonus. All right. So with that, let's make magic together. I really do think I said this in the beginning. You have a felt sense of whether or not like you want to come in. It's more like your business knows, like it's like this is the space it wants to come in. There's something here for it that it wants to sort of touch on to create and amplify something. So it's an intimate group. It's highly curated, and this is going to be women who are all already like, we should also say like you have to be at minimum 6 figures, probably closer to $200,000 and up. And wanting to go to multiple 6 or 7 figures in the coming 1 to 3 years. I also want to say that 6 figures has to be from your own business. I have seen people who like are contractors or other things, and their money is like not coming from their business, and they apply to higher level spaces. This is a highly curated room. So that's something like to just keep in mind if you want to come into this space. It's also feminine leaders. We're doing it differently. There's like no maps. There's no maps for, I think this is a very ancient way, but it feels like the maps have been hidden, and I've been like uncovering them, because every example I saw of scaling and hiring people, managing people, and like everything is so masculine and so not aligned for the way that I want to be living and scaling. And I think a lot of women have said no to scaling at the way that they want to scale because they just don't see the model for it. And I think that's a beautiful place to end it, because I think what this space represents is that inner sanctum that shows, it's like, this is the fingerprint that like everyone's going to start to look at, like what is happening there and what are those women doing and what are they representing? And I can't take responsibility. I feel like this program birthed through me, and I am just the conduit for it. And I'm going to do the best I can to represent the work that it wants me to bring through. So if you feel called to it, we would love to have you in the space with us. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and we can go for Q&A. All right, so let me see. I'm going to take a sip of my kombucha and then I'm going to pull up my Q&A box. Give me a second. I've been like talking so much this week. It's funny, a lot of people think I'm extroverted because like the sparkles and everything. I'm actually kind of an introvert, and having periods like this, like so much up and out energy, like I'm going to need to do some yoga nidra. Anyway, all right. I have an operations person and love that one mastermind covers all facets of the biz, back and front end. Just clarifying that she could have access to portal and come to the systems calls. Yes. Okay. I love, this is on me. I thought of this question and I literally have a note somewhere in like all of my papers to add that as an FAQ to the bottom of our page, and we haven't done it. So thank you. I'm going to like have my team add it today, because that's totally something we've even like, I joined a Facebook ads mastermind, and part of that was like, I wanted to be in there so my operations person could learn the back end of the ads 100%. And we'll see. I think there's going to be like some mix of people that are probably coming in as solopreneurs that are looking to hire their first person. So if we do an operations call, like my operations manager will come on and show y'all whatever you're like needing help with or wanting help with in your business. And if you have an operations person, that's an example where like you don't even need to go to that call. You could just send your operations person and then they can walk away with an SOP to like apply and up level in your business. And you don't ever even have to like think about it or problem solve for it. Like your business will just get better. You just tell us what you need help with. We will solve it on our end and bring something to you. So yes, absolutely. Okay. You have mentioned evergreen, but do you teach or give support around launching? Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm like, did I not talk about launching? 100%. Like whatever you have going on with you, I am always happy to unpack like, well, actually, I mean, we talked about the quiz funnel, right? Like you're going to get quite a bit coming in through that. But that's, I mean, this is the most sophisticated version. And it's for us where we're getting at with a level with our audience. We wanted something that would beautifully segment in a different way. But 100%, if you want help around launching, listen, I've been launching for years. I have launched memberships, I have launched masterminds, I have launched group programs. So for sure, I'm more than happy to help you with anything that comes up. Like I said, this is really like, it's very co-creational. And so we can really personalize it to like whatever it is and get a sense of like your unique brand, your unique buyer. And we can come up with like super creative, innovative things that probably I've never even run in my business. But like, I have this thing where it's like, once I tune in to your business, sometimes it's my business brain, but also I just get like downloads for people's businesses. Like I bring some things sometimes. So 100%, if there's a launch that wants to come through you, we will find it. All right. I'm in the Accelerator and am obsessed with the level of innovation and creativity you brought to the recent support structure changes. Thank you. I have a lot to say about that, actually, as well as how flawless the messaging and client comms was. Thank you. Do you help with stuff like this here? I'm inspired and wanting to revamp my core program. Yes, we can for sure. Yeah, like this is, yeah, because I think like in Words or Wands, there's a lot of people who are doing more one-on-one work, whereas here people are getting into scaled offers, programs, things like that. And I think that I've like really thought about this. Like no one ever taught me, how do you roll out change management when something changes in a program? How do you do this? How do you do that? And if you listen to any of my podcasts recently, like there's a lot that I pull from my experience working in tech. And if you know software, you know that there's like changes that happen and rollouts that happen. And I have a very specific lens on change management within programs and how that can be managed and how that can be communicated in a way where one thing that I'll say, you saying that you're there, I'm very proud of the fact that we had 0 complaints. We changed the structure quite a bit and 0 complaints. And I don't think that was an accident. I was very strategic. And to your point of how I rolled out the client comms around that. And yes, I'm more than happy to share my secrets and help you revamp whatever it is that you're wanting to do. All right. Can I split the 25K between two cards? I'm playing the points game your friend Devin taught me in Wealth Codes. First of all, I love that so much. And yes, I don't know if you were here. I said that when we went through, maybe I thought I said it. You can totally split it between two cards. I can't remember if it's when you go to remit payment. We might already have it set up that way, or it might be the kind of thing where you just need to write to support. But I know they like my team helps with that all the time. So no worries if you've like got two different introductory bonuses, you're going to get whatever Devin, whatever witchy magic Devin has with her point stuff. I'm more than happy to support you in getting that. So good. What are the dates of the treat and where is it at? May 22nd to 25th. And it's in Austin, Texas. It's where I live. And we were thinking about maybe having it in like Arizona or New Mexico, but I'm not going to lie. The reason why we picked it was definitely going to be Austin was I realized May 22nd is my youngest son's birthday. And I was like, I'm not missing that. So I'll be with you all during the day, but it's going to be in Austin so that I can go home and eat birthday cake with my son that day. All right. What is the extent of the sexual energy work in the mastermind? I'm intrigued, but also super uncomfortable about it. I think a lot of people are. I've actually heard like some, I've had clients that were like, I just skipped some of your episodes. It's for me, listen, it's not like a you must come in and like we're gonna like you're not joining a cult. Like, don't worry. But for me, I think about it as there's certain things that I have found to be like the most powerful practices that have gotten me tangible business results. And this work, like I've just done a lot of work studying in Tantra. I've done a lot of work with my partner and like intimacy work and all of those things. I'm like literally in a membership right now around Tantra and sexual energy. And it's a business, it has a large impact on my business. And so for me, it's like less around, it was more like I felt like I would be out of integrity if I didn't include it, if that makes sense, right? I'm not like gonna put your like thumb to the, like, did you watch the sexual energy course? Like, no, there's none of that. But to me, it just feels like you're going to feel a sense of if it's for you or not. And I think pleasure comes in a lot of different facets. I do not think it's just sexual pleasure, but there are certain things like if you have, I mean, so many of the ancient lineages like just speak about how it is the sacral. It's like your sexual energy is very bound up with your creative power. I have found that to be 100% true for me. And so when I started doing a lot of this work, like my creativity and feminine energetics unleashed like I could not believe. So I am a big fan of it. And there is also like in Tantra, there's a practice called edging where you hold yourself and your partner towards where you intentionally don't climax. You stay at a very high threshold of sensation. And that might sound like a weird thing to like have in a business mastermind, but the nervous system is the nervous system. And so one of the things that like, if we just want to talk about like the logic behind how this really helped me, it actually became something where it increased the window of tolerance in my nervous system in a way that was like very pleasurable, and which first of all made me very uncomfortable. I had to open myself up to that level, right? But then on the other side of it, your window of tolerance in your nervous system is your window of tolerance. And so the same capacity that you have to hold uncertainty in a launch, the same capacity that you have to hold a lot of the things when you go into a scaled business and you have like whatever the things are that are coming at you, right? You can hold more. And what I love is that doing that type of work allows you to build the capacity in a way that feels incredible, feels very empowering, and unleashes your creativity in a way that then actually on the back end of things helps you to hold the other side of what it means to really like grow and scale and be higher in your industry as well. Because let's be real, it's not all rainbows and daisies. It's like we have to be willing to hold both ends of the stick. Okay. I just hired my first VA and it's been super stressful. I'm at 300,000, so my revenue seems to fit the room, but I'm wondering if I'm too far behind on the systems and hiring side. I really wouldn't worry about that. I actually think you probably sound like a perfect person to come into the room. Because honestly, I think there's certain things like when I worked as an employee, I ran larger teams. It's so weird because I feel like for years I started as a solopreneur and I've been working my way back. But now that just in the past, 4 or 5 months, I broke my team into functional roles. And now I'm like, oh my God, I remember being here, right? When I was starting a business development department, it was 30 people in the company. And I just had a few of the people in the department. And then I grew it, right? And we grew a lot. So it's sort of I had to leave that job. And I was all of this experience I have in scaled businesses and all of these things, I'm leaving that behind. And it's sort of I had to build and build and build for 5 years. And it's almost I'm now I'm oh, and now I know this part now, right? But I think that even in my business, we just split into functional roles about 4 or 5 months ago. And I would say that that's actually, I think it's a really good marker. I haven't thought about this, but thank you. I should write an email about this. Because as I'm thinking about the way that you're talking about it, I just hired my first VA and you're thinking you might be behind on the systems and hiring side. I think a question I would have for you is, do you just want to stay with a VA forever? Or do you actually want to, in the coming years, have more of an established team? Because I think you can join here with a VA for sure. You should come, no matter what, if you're feeling called to a room, come to the room. But there's something around, when you have a VA, it's an energy extender, right? You're delegating tasks, but you're still holding everything and you're delegating tasks. And then when you get to breaking off into functional roles, you start to actually delegate out responsibility and decision-making, which I just must say feels very light and delicious. And so I think in particular, if you're oh my gosh, I want to figure out how to really work with this VA very well. And then in the coming years, I would love to have something where it's I have more of a team, I've grown my revenue, I have more of a team, and I'm able to not be, because when you just have a VA, you're pretty much still the bottleneck for everything. I do think there's something magical that happens when you sort of get to that next level. And the other thing that I will say about you having a VA, I think there's something about, there's a lot of people that call themselves OBMs or ops managers, and they actually operate like VAs. I see a lot of people get into higher revenue businesses and they have a person on the back end that through no fault of either, they don't have the capability. It's like having a fish climb a tree. They're good at doing tasks, but they're not good at building out a back end. Those are different people. They could be the same person, but they could be very different people. Or it could be someone that it is the same person, but they've never done it before. So it could be a VA that could be really good at building out systems and processes and things. And the moment that they see, when you come out, when you bring your VA onto one of our calls with my operations manager, they're going to see something and be oh my gosh, we should totally implement that. And then your life just gets 10 times easier. Because I would have to talk to you, and feel free to apply, and you could even request a sales call if you want to talk about what this would look like specifically. But I would imagine if you're at $300,000, there is going to be something around a certain number of clients and wanting to have some sense of a back end. And a VA doesn't necessarily know how to build that for you. So I would say you should definitely join. But if you need to talk about it, feel free and we can talk about it. But yeah, there is I think I talked about this maybe in Growth and Scale yesterday. Even my operations manager, there are certain things, because the last job I worked at, I was selling tech. And so I was the head of a business unit and I worked with engineering and design, and we were building out entire apps for these large companies. So I saw how project managers ran projects at scale. And so there have been some things, even with my operations manager, where because I've had experience with very high level project management people, I have been able to be oh, you have this gap and this gap and this gap. Right. And so, but the thing is with her, it's she's so capable. The moment we find the thing, we get the program. I just bought a I just bought a course for like $500 last week because it had a template that I was like, I know that if she sees that, she'll implement it in my business and it will just get better, right? So it's like, I feel like what this is like, this is the program that is like, has holistic business support. So you don't have to do what I've had to do, which is like piecemeal build everything together and like cobble it together and figure out how it makes sense. Like we've built it and we can help you build it. Like the amount of time and energy we've had to spend with solving problems, you don't have to spend that time. We can just like give you some of this stuff, right? It just like really, like, I love just like cutting checks to go faster. Like this is definitely a place where you can cut checks to move faster. So yes, you should apply. Okay, that is it that I'm seeing. I will stay on. I'm actually going to go for my water next, not my kombucha. If there's any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to drop off. Going once, going twice. And if there's anything when you go to apply for the room, there will be like a check box at the end if you want to request a 20-minute call with me to like riff on some of this stuff for you specifically or anything else that's coming up to make sure that you're a best fit for the room. Like I said, it's a curated space. If you feel the yes, trust the yes. And I can't wait to see your application come in. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.